One more question kind of about the storytelling animal, then I want to ask you
Mhm.
some questions that just intersect with the question of God and just get your reflections on them. At the end
Okay.
of the storytelling animal, you talk about how story is changing. So you describe that there's this universal structure of story, like you said, across genre, across time, across age, but it's also built into us. However, it got there, it's a fixed part of what it means to be human. But the
Yeah.
means by which we tell stories might change. So, really, TikTok is 1 minute stories. That's what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you have any sense of where storytelling is maybe headed at this stage going forward?
Yeah. I sure do. Um, it's going to the metaverse.
There we go.
It's going to the metaverse. Yeah, it's simple.
Hmm.
Once you get into the Oculus Rift, if you once you put those things on, you're like, oh well, obviously this is where everything is going to end up. Um, and the metaverse is a really kind of a fascinating phenomenon. It is at one time very exciting because you can, when you put on the goggles and you go into these alternative worlds, it is completely convincing to your brain. I went the first time I ever had a virtual reality experience. I was in Nashville, and I went to this virtual reality arcade. It was before there was even like the home headsets, or before anybody could afford them. And I went in there and I went into a story where there was a zombie apocalypse. And I was basically humanity's last great hope, and I had to fight off all these zombies and save the world. And I was with my brothers, two of my brothers, and we together, fought off the zombie horde, and it was incredibly intense. And my brain was completely taken in by it. Even though the world was cartoonish, my brain just accepted that. Oh, this is kind of a cartoonish world. And I took the goggles off at the end of it, and I was sweaty, and I was jittery, and I was stressed out, and I was sad because I had seen my brothers die again and again, and it was terribly realistic. I just, and so then we go afterwards and we go to have dinner, and everything seemed kind of pointless afterwards. We had this. We wanted to get back into the zombie apocalypse world where our life was extremely meaningful. The meaning inside that simulation was so huge. We were fighting the forces of evil to save the world. And suddenly we're like, tourists in Nashville again, and we're living these boring lives. So I think of virtual reality as this kind of cool but also terrifying thing. Oh, by the way, when I took off my goggles, the owner of the arcade said to me something like, "Hey, how'd you like it?" And I said, this will change the world and it will destroy it."
Wow.
Um, and the reason is, once you go into that world, why would you want to come out? Why would you want to stop being God? Is how I put it. Because once you're in that world, you can do whatever you want. You can have any kind of fantasy you want. What do you want to do? You want to save the world from zombies? You want to have some all your fantasies come true in a romantic or sexual sense? And what kind of thing do you want to happen? It can all happen in there. And then once you have that, all those possibilities, why would you want to come out? Why would you want to stop being a superhero?
I think it's real interesting that you said, why would you want to not be like God? Now, of course, I'm going to interpret that a little bit differently, being a Christian, saying, yeah, you go back to Genesis 1, that was the original issue, has not gone anywhere, but maybe the tools about how to do that have
Yeah.
changed.